This is Jasayan Lore, and welcome to the Frostpunk universe. We will be freezing the hearts and minds of many as we spread the influence of the Frostpunk universe across the entire globe. I hope you and your family are staying safe and warm during this pandemic. Let us begin our dive into the Frostpunk universe and its lore. One of the greatest mysteries within the Frostland is trying to identify where exactly and how did the individuals from the city of New London make it all the way across that massive frozen wasteland to the unknown region in which they inhabit currently. A question that many of us, players of the video game, are trying ourselves to understand. As was stated approximately a year ago by me and a couple of my other friends, the Frostpunk, or the Frostland itself, was once a massive forest. The DLC now proves this perspective that the Frostland itself was actually a forest, before the Frostland became what it is now. The question that many of us are still trying to ask ourselves, in the very beginning of this video that I mentioned, is how is it that these individuals were capable of traveling on a land dreadnought across such far distances, over 1,000 miles plus, as some individuals within the Discord are asking? Well, you see, land dreadnoughts themselves are actually moving generator towers, as can be seen in this image. The land dreadnought itself acts as a mobile outpost, in a sense allowing individuals who are stationed within the structure to actually move about the Frostland without the worry of trying to find out if they will have to find some other way of surviving. But the truth is about to be revealed. The actual truth about the land dreadnoughts and why these vehicles are capable of traveling such far distances, and the real motive behind the land dreadnought itself. These details will be discussed in further detail as time goes along. I'm currently creating the lore context while I'm speaking to you live. This is live lore, and you're listening to Just Saying Lore. What a day! So, let's get back into the Frostpunk universe, the land dreadnoughts, and how these massive structures actually work. Sorry about that. Now, we will begin with talking about the location of where the Frostpunk universe might actually have taken place. Some individuals state that the Frostpunk universe might have taken place within England, Britain. Who knows where exactly the Frostland might have actually been? No one is actually sure. But what we do know is that it was somewhere up north, somewhere in a region that would facilitate such kind of activity, rich in natural resources and other minerals and wildlife. Why build a generator tower within a frozen forest, covered over to look like a wasteland? Well, the truth is, the Frostland never reveals its secrets until the storm has passed. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. The first thing we're talking about is how the hell people travel so far. Once the Frostland became a reality, all the individuals from the old world became nomads. As the cities descended into chaos, many fled back to the sites that they were working on, or if they weren't working on sites, they set up camp somewhere in the Frostland, hoping that they would be able to survive the horrible and frigid conditions. And this is true. If you play the Villas, you find large amounts of people who are huddling together trying to survive. How is it that these individuals managed to escape the storm itself. As I've said in a previous video, the frostland giveth and taketh, and it also means that individuals living within a particular area migrate when the storm is coming in. It's the only logical thing that I could think of that would allow people to escape the dangers of the frostland. Many things are unknown as to what exactly caused the deep freeze, according to what people say in the lore, but I have explained the deep freeze in full detail, stating that volcanoes are the sole reason why the earth ascended into such a frigid and frozen wasteland. Now, land dreadnoughts have multiple configurations. We can look at the Arctic land dreadnought, we can look at the Frostland land dreadnought, and we can also look at the Winterhome retrofitted and upgraded land dreadnought. These vehicles are also capable of carrying a large amount of people, a large amount of resources, and a large amount of steam cores, built in to allow it to support cabins and other necessities for the transportation of individuals. This machine is also capable of having a coach behind it that it pulls with it. That can add an additional amount of space to house individuals or resources. So, in a sense, land dreadnoughts are more than just moving cities, they are also a form of transportation of bulk resources. Land dreadnoughts themselves could tow at least 2 generator towers from one site to another, and they could also be used to carry large amounts of materials from one area to the next. These vehicles were used during the final stages of the evacuation effort after the seas had frozen over solid, and as such, they had to resort to these large, humongous, what am I saying? These large, powerful machines to transport individuals from point A to point B. Land dreadnoughts, in a sense, are similar to what you'd call huge spaceships. If you check out the Spirit of Fire in Halo Wars and other ships within the sci-fi space genre of movies and entertainment and series, whatever, you'll find that there are colony ships, and these massive ships are used to transport people from point A to point B. And that is the whole sole purpose of a land dreadnought. In the initial stages of developing the game itself, the developers were playing around with the idea of stating that yes, we can create these land dreadnoughts, but land dreadnoughts will also become a means of transforming themselves from being a movable city into a stationary city. But that idea was later scrapped for the idea that generator towers themselves are built below the freezing line. This I've discussed multiple times, as building the structure below the freezing line prevents it from suffering any malfunctions because of the cold weather, allowing the generator tower itself to function indefinitely as long as it's supplied with coal and the area has not filled over. Back to the land dreadnoughts. Land dreadnoughts have two modes: rapid transportation with the stack down, and basic form of slow transportation with the stack up. Whenever the stack is up, as you can see in this image here, the land dreadnought is providing a heat radius for the individuals walking beside it. It is from my understanding that while the land dreadnought is in motion, the individuals around it will do one of two things: walk alongside the vehicle and search for additional resources. The vehicle can also enter into a stationary position with the stack up, allowing a small community to be set up around the land dreadnought. This can be seen when playing Winterhome and the individuals are setting up the building for a rapid evacuation from a exploding generator tower. So, this should explain exactly what land dreadnoughts are capable of doing and how these machines are capable of transporting large amounts of people from various areas within the Frostland, and also acting as not just a lifeboat, but also as a resource and trade, in a sense, transportation vehicle of large amounts of bulk resources from one area to the other, along with the support of crawlers and trains. Now, we move on to the ideas for DLC. The last piece of DLC that 11-bit Studios made known to us that they're working on, which could be a amalgamation of other things that they might build upon, is the Reconquest DLC. Now, my idea with the colonies law, the idea that when one has decided to set up a city, some of the laws, mechanics, ideas, techniques, technologies, assets, and other information should be all filtered into the sandbox. Why is this important to me? The DLC should encompass not just the ability of an individual to set up his own city, but the individual should have the ability to choose where he or she wants to set up the city. Why is this important? We've seen how cities are constructed. We've seen how generator towers are built. Now, let's give people the chance to choose where they want to set up their city within the Frostland. This would be a game changer because it allows people to determine what they want to do. Excuse me. If one is to play the Mars game developed by Paradox, there are set points in which you can establish your settlement, but there are also areas outside of the designated zones that you can decide to set up shop. What this allows you to do is determine what you want to experience. You set up a location on the globe or within a region within the Frostpunk universe with something in game to keep you immersed, a map of a large region and areas that you have discovered. So land dreadnoughts can serve one of two purposes in this kind of situation. The individuals start out on a land dreadnought and there are two options. Build a new generator site or convert the land dreadnought into a site. Now, the developers can then expand on and add additional features of you creating a crater itself around the land dreadnought to survive a certain time period and then move on after. A number of things can be done in order to see how these things can work. Testing can be done to understand whether or not the new ideas are possible, feasible, or if the ideas are not. We can also look at the fact that the laws, the book of laws within TLA has actually changed quite a bit. The book of laws itself has actually gone in a very different direction. What do I mean by that? If one is to play TLA, one will start to realize that TLA itself is actually the last autumn, as it's called, gives you a more balanced idea of what a civilization would be, should be, can be. Why is that important? Civilizations themselves within our world of understanding are not one way. There is no direct faith or direct order type of civilization. What TLA actually did was give us an idea of what the two of them are like when they're combined. What this does, it allows the player a more flexible freedom to explore, innovate, and create something that they themselves would want to see. I'm now seeing that the 11-bit Studios team is releasing control of the scenarios in the builders or the endless setting, allowing players more control over how the cities are built. These type of survival games, or this survival game itself, is the first of its kind. The game itself has somehow managed to create a level of mystery, a level of unknown, and a level of understanding of how grim and difficult the conditions are. No matter what level you play on in Frostpunk, easy is still difficult, and hard is still difficult, and extreme is hell. But once you've gotten to the end, it is worth it. The idea that I overcame, I managed, and I survived is one of the greatest things that mankind has done over the years. And tapping into that, allowing people to tell their own stories, is the best way to bring across things like these. The Frostpunk universe itself is rich. It can be twisted, molded, and transformed in many ways. But it is up to us as players and developers to come together and to create something unique. The Frostpunk universe allows such things to take place. The mere fact that the lore itself can be twisted, mangled, rearranged, and added onto, as long as it continues to flow within the river of the Frostpunk universe time of understanding, we have no problems in terms of where the DLC might go, what the DLC might be. But the trading mechanics, the social issues, and other things have been tested out in multiple scenarios. What needs to be done is all these things added in. The idea is not to make the game not playable or difficult, but to create an environment that allows change, manipulation of events, and people to affect the decision that the player makes and to have some form of cause and effect relationship as to the result of actions. No one is sure when the new DLC is coming out. I don't know. I don't work for 11-bit studios. I just create content. But what I can say though is that the DLC itself might cover something in relation to reclaiming the Frostland or something of that sort. The Scouts of New London might be working on something, suggesting that they might be adding on to the story. But the most important thing now is to allow players to tell their own stories within the Endless by, if possible, adding in multiple biomes. We have the area that's covered with frost and the area that isn't. And this might show the idea that yes, the deep freeze might have turned the entire globe or large sections of the globe into a frozen wasteland, but there are some unique areas that are not fully covered by frost, and these areas are where animals thrive. Think of Metro Exodus, moving from an area that's completely covered in ice and snow to an area that is not so covered in ice and snow but barren, frozen desert, or a hot desert, then to a lush green area surrounded by trees and animals. The idea is to create something that the player can connect to, an environment that is both unique, fresh, and cool. A lot of the mechanics that were used should, if possible, be added onto and put into the endless. And if they're going to create another scenario, which probably might be the case, knowing them, that is the, excuse me, that is the next step. Changing the environments and working on things will allow you, in a sense, excuse me, to become much more free in expressing your building ideas. That's how I see the Frostpunk universe going. That's what I think would be good. Stay tuned, guys. I'll be right back with some more Frostpunk in a bit. Prime time.